Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. We're just seeing the number of attendees increase. So before we start, we're just going to leave just a few moments just to let everyone log in. At the moment, all attendees are in listen-only mode. So you can hear us, but we can't hear you. We have a speaker with us, kindly joined us today, Helen from YoungMinds. Unfortunately, we are having problems with her webcam, so you can't see her. But Helen, if you just say hello.
Hi.
She is here with us. So yeah, throughout the presentation, you will be able to see Helen's slides, but you will not be able to see her, unfortunately. So today's session, we're focusing on mental well-being. As I mentioned, Helen has kindly joined us from the charity YoungMinds. Amazing work they do with young people regarding mental health. The session, we decided we wanted to run it now in readiness for return to school, and I appreciate some are still on school holidays in the UK, unless you're in Leicestershire, as we mentioned earlier. So what we're going to talk to you about today is just some of those practical strategies that you can implement in this new school year. But obviously it's not any normal school year. We have had 6 months of living under lockdown here in the UK. So as well as the usual problems with returning to school or transition that you might see regarding mental health problems with children and young people, this session will also refer to the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. And in the UK, we have statutory guidance, and we have a new version of Keeping Children Safe in Education 2020, the DfE statutory guidance here. And there's more of a focus on mental health this year. So we felt it was appropriate to do this session now, before school starts, so everybody's ready. So that's the focus of the session today. We are covering just general good practice. So although we have this new guidance in the UK, it is appropriate for anyone who's joining us from international settings. I'm going to ask Helen to just introduce herself in a little while, just so she can tell you more about her background, because she has got that brilliant, on the ground experience, but she is now a trainer for YoungMinds. Helen, please can I ask you to just go on to the next slide? Great, thank you. So the way we work at Educare, and I work for Educare, and my colleague Dawn on screen at the moment, we both work for Educare. So we make safeguarding and duty of care training, and we are part of the TES Global family. And the way that we make our training courses is we get feedback and advice from our network of experts, and we then take all that advice and turn it into online training courses, and many people attending today will already be customers. So YoungMinds have produced 2 courses for us on mental wellbeing and also digital resilience, hence our relationship with them and why Helen is joining us today. In this webinar series that we ran during lockdown, we've had our partners from ChildNet who've done an online safety course for us, SAFNA, who've done a number of courses on health and administration of medication, our partners from NWG, who we've done courses with on exploitation, and our partners from Winston's Wish, who spoke about bereavement strategies, which is obviously going to be quite prudent as we move into welcoming everybody back. So that's just to give some context about our relationship, why we're hosting this today, and just to get everyone a chance to actually speak directly to our experts, but the courses are there as well. Helen, could you please just move on to the next screen? We just want to cover a quick bit of housekeeping, and then I'll go off camera. So today, Helen will just give a short presentation. I think it's 20 or 30 minutes. If you would need to ask any questions throughout, please use the questions box. And Dawn, my colleague, may just ask that question during the presentation, or we'll field all questions at the end. This session is being recorded, and recordings will be sent out automatically from the webinar software about an hour after we finish. I think in total we should be finished by 11, but that obviously depends on how many questions we get today. So that's everything from me now. Dawn and I will now both go off camera, but Dawn will maybe ask some of your questions to Helen throughout, and then we'll do a Q&A session at the end. Okay, thank you everybody. Helen, thank you, over to you.
Thank you. Hi everyone, as I say, I'm Helen and I work for YoungMinds. I'm actually a qualified maths teacher, and for 20 years I ran a school provision in a CAMS psychiatric hospital for 11 to 18-year-olds dealing with young people with severe mental health difficulties. Part of my job entailed ensuring the young people continued their education even though they were in hospital, and then I used to work with schools and colleges to reintegrate the young people back into their educational setting, often after months and sometimes years of them not attending the school or the college. For the last 2 years, and I've worked as a trainer consultant with YoungMinds. In this presentation today, I'm going to explore challenges faced by pupils during the lockdown, the impact this may have had on them, and then think about some strategies to employ at the start of the term to help get the year off to a positive start and to support the mental well-being of the whole school community during this new normal. Although this presentation series is titled Ask the Experts, I think this is such an unprecedented circumstances. Nobody's been through this before, and so I don't think anyone really is an expert. But I hope that I will be able to give you all some advice from my own experience of working with mental health issues and dealing with young people's well-being while integrating them back into schools and colleges. I really hope that everyone will be able to take something away with them today. So, what do we mean by mental health? This is the definition used by YoungMinds: the strength and capacity of our minds to grow and develop, to be able to overcome difficulties and challenges, and to make the most of our abilities and opportunities. There are two things that are important about this definition. Firstly, it is a positive state. We all have mental health. Some people's mental health is better than others, and it changes over time and circumstances for all of us. It's a continuum. Secondly, this is also the definition of a learner, the type of student I'd like to have in my classroom, which makes the case for why we need to pay attention to mental health in schools, especially now, because unless we're in this positive state, we will be less likely to be at our best and fulfill our potential. And this is true for both teachers and pupils. There is a lot in the media about an impending mental health crisis, but let's just take a little bit more of a balanced view. For some families, it's created personal, social, and financial difficulties. But for others, it's created time to sleep, bond, play, and learn together. For some children, lockdown has caused isolation, loneliness, uncertainty, and fear, while others may have been free from discrimination, bullying, academic pressures, and may have had a slower pace of life. For schools, it's been a time of uncertainty. There's been lots of changes. There may have been some burnout and additional responsibility, but it's also been a chance to learn and see the job differently. What is inescapable for all of us is that we've been through a time of unusual difficulties and challenges, and that good mental health should be a priority in order to grow and develop from these experiences. Just a few stats. As I'm a maths teacher, I do like stats and numbers. YoungMinds conducted a survey early in the pandemic investigating the impact of COVID-19 on young people. All of the young people they asked had a history of mental health needs at the beginning of the pandemic. And as you can see, 83% said the crisis had made their mental health worse, including 32% saying it was much worse. They did a second survey in June with another 2,000 young people, again, all with a history of mental health needs. And as you could see that 41% said it made their mental health much worse, and 31% of young people who were accessing mental health support before the crisis were no longer receiving it. And I think that's really concerning. 87% of young people agreed they felt lonely or isolated, even though 71% have been able to stay in touch with friends. But we also should note that it said 11% said their mental health had improved during the crisis. So that's really important to bear in mind as well. I mean, this is just a snapshot of the young person's views at a particular time and during a changing situation. So if they'd have asked it another time, might have got different stats. But it does show that many were under increasing pressure and struggling to get support during the lockdown. Before discussing strategies on returning to school, let's just quickly think a little bit about more detail about the impact the pandemic has had on our pupils. Possibly negative impacts may include loss. There's been a loss of routines, a loss of schools, a loss of exams, end of term activities, loss of holidays, loss of normal life, loss of extracurricular activities. Relationships, they've missed seeing friends, family. They've had a lack of socialisation. It may have been difficult to maintain friendships. They've missed doing activities with peer groups. There's been a lot of anxiety, fear about the future, fear of new rules, anxiety about illness or passing illness over to others. School and learning, which is really important. They've missed out on a curriculum, learning. They've got worries about falling behind, worried that school may close again. Along with missing school might have meant a lack of access to a trusted adult who they relied on for support. Routine. They're out of normal routine. They might be waking up later. They may be going to bed later, not getting dressed. The days of the week merge into one, and there's not the same distinction between weekends, school holidays, and normal days. Their family situation may have changed. Financial issues, abuse, conflict in the home. There may be increased caring responsibilities where carers couldn't get in to help the family. There might be more arguments, and parents are at home all the time, which might have led to a reduced independence for the young people and our pupils. Some may have experienced bereavement and the trauma of death in the family, or of a friend, or of illness. And there may be a lot of anger at missing out and not having access to school. Some may be angry because they were had to continue with lessons, whilst others have not. Their parents may have made them do lessons and they see their friends not doing lessons. There's anger over the exam results, having to follow rules. However, we do need to remember that for some young people, the pandemic has had some positive experiences. More family time, more routines, less stress about exams and schoolwork, time out from bullying. They may have developed new coping strategies, new problem-solving skills, and their mental health may have improved. All these experiences will make returning to school challenging for many pupils. School was always there and provided structure and routine. It was taken away very quickly. They may worry schools may close again. It will be hard to build relationships with teachers and peer groups again. Their concentration may be poor, and it will be hard to adapt to new school rules. Will exams be cancelled again? Am I behind in work? And children in transition phases are particularly vulnerable, because obviously some of the work with transition hasn't been able to be done. It's important that teachers look out for unusual behaviour. Children who find it hard to settle, they might be withdrawn, they might be irritable, they might be angry, they might be tearful. However, children and young people are resilient and do cope with new experiences. It's important that schools build on the resilience of their pupils. Again, another survey carried out by Bristol University, I think it was in the papers on Monday, stated that teenagers' anxiety had improved during the lockdown. For some young people, the pandemic may have had positive experiences, more family time, new routine, less stress, time out from bullying. They may have developed new coping strategies, new problem-solving skills, and their mental health may have improved. Building resilience is fundamental to supporting pupils' well-being and good mental health. But what do we mean by resilience? Firstly, one definition: resilient people can resist adversity, cope with uncertainty, and recover more successfully from traumatic events or episodes. This seems to imply some element of intrinsic capability. But the second, resilience can be described as ordinary magic in the minds, brains, and bodies of children, in their families and relationships, and in their communities. This identifies that actually resilience is a systemic issue. In looking to help people be more resilient, we need to think about their personal experiences and their interactions with the wider world, both in terms of how these have an impact on them and how they can impact the lives of others. Understanding resilience as a systemic responsibility means that it is not just about giving young people individual skills to be able to cope. Let's just think about some strategies that schools can employ to make sure pupils' well-being is looked after at this difficult time. So, how can we build resilience in staff and pupils, and are there any actions that we can use? Firstly, we must accept. We cannot change what has happened. We cannot change the experiences that our pupils have faced, but we can accept the current situation and work with the resources we have. We need to find out how your children, your parents, your carers, your staff are feeling. This raises the importance of time to listen, good quality listening skills, and the capacity to respond to what you hear, which can be difficult in large organisations. There are many different examples of doing this depending on your setting and environment. Examples may be to use the school council to get feedback. Provide space for pupils to talk about their experiences, and I think this is really important. Talk about the virus and any worries. Send out questionnaires, maybe an online survey. You can give a phone call to students before they return to school. Let pupils put their fears in boxes anonymously, so nobody knows who they are, but at least you get an idea of what pupils are feeling. You could have drop-in sessions for parents. You could have wellbeing surveys with staff. And you should always have weekly sessions with staff to discuss their concerns. It's also really important to make sure vulnerable pupils are identified using any new information gathered during lockdown and any additional support offered. Conserving. We must conserve any positives that have emerged during the lockdown. For example, building relationships, improving communications with pupils and parents. Many pupils may have been involved in helping their community. They may have learnt new skills. We can all learn from the online teaching that we've been doing and build on it. We must remember we cannot change what's happened, but good things are possible, and we should seek to find them, celebrate them, and help them to continue. Do not make unrealistic promises about the future, but resilience is about hope and looking forward. Have honest conversations about the future with optimism and hope that things will get better. Keeping a positive outlook helps to manage worries and anxieties. Belonging. School has always offered security, routine, and a place of safety for many pupils. A sense of belonging is really important for building resilience. However, it may be hard for pupils and staff to reintegrate back to the school community. It's important to be creative in finding new ways to draw people back. You can create time for pupils to reconnect with each other. Use group work in lessons. Develop peer support models. Provide written and visual information that sets out how things will be the same or different. Have firm boundaries, but still be flexible. Some pupils will always want to push the boundaries and break the rules, and we must remember that young people are more risk aversive than adults. We need to be supportive in applying policies. Be welcoming whilst observing the new rules. One thing I've learned during the lockdown is when I've been into shops, the person at the door who is really nice and friendly and explains very clearly to go the one-way system, to follow the one-way system and to sanitize my hands, makes the shop much more welcoming, makes me feel much more secure than the person shouting at me because I walked the wrong way in the shop. Communication is also clear. Have clear dialogue with pupils about new rules, but be prepared to change if they do not work. Think about how this new communication will be. It might be by tutors, online, visual, by the school council, maybe assemblies, but obviously small assemblies in bubble groups. Communication with parents is also vital. Again, that could be by text message, email, drop-in sessions. And I know there are many, many parents that are really worried, and just having short, good communication with them is going to be really vital. Communication needs to be regular, clear, and concise. We also need to think about the vulnerable children who have been attending school all the way through, and make sure you reduce any stigma for them. And remember those who are unable to return to school. We need to make sure they still feel they belong and have regular contact. Coping. How we've all coped with the lockdown and how we can cope going forward will be different. It's important to acknowledge worry as a normal response and recognise emotions. We need to talk about the virus and the huge conflicting media cover. We need to help children identify anxiety and give them strategies to manage this. Physical exercise, breathing techniques, regular routine, talking. We need to be calm and do not get drawn into the pupils' emotions. It's important that the environment in the school is one of calmness and compassion. Really important to be non-judgmental. I think there's been lots of judgmental things going on in the country during lockdown, and I think it's so important to be non-judgmental. We need to have a plan to deal with pupils who are distressed by other pupils breaking the rules. We need to provide safe spaces where pupils can have physical distance from others if they are distressed. We need to remind pupils of internal and external support available, and also remember that we cannot help everyone. Some pupils may need specialist help. We need to support staff in their own stresses and anxieties and provide time for reflection. And learning. Learning builds resilience and supports positive mental health. Pupils may feel anxious that they're behind. Some will be annoyed that their parents made them work while others have not. It will be important to identify gaps in knowledge, but recognizing that all pupils will be at different places. Remember, memory is context specific, and some pupils may be distressed because they can't remember anything. But just reassure them it will return with practice. Be careful not to pass any anxiety on about lost learning. Pupils will also have missed having regular feedback, so make sure this happens. And it's really important to plan opportunities for relaxing and taking part in creative activities. Give movement breaks to help with concentration, because concentration may be poor after a long time not being in a school classroom. And ensure academic needs are met without putting too much pressure on pupils. And I also think it's really important to discuss the increased use of online media and the effect this may have and will have in the future. One really important key element of resilience is being asset focused. This is not to ignore troublesome things or to diminish their impact. But if we accept we can't change what's happened, Finding ways to help us feel more positive is a definite benefit. Good things are possible and we should seek to find them, celebrate them and make them happen whenever and wherever we can. It really does focus on strengths, and that's really important to remember. Resilience also needs to be a whole school approach. Understanding resilience as a systemic responsibility means that schools need to be considering a whole school approach, an approach that puts all the emphasis on pastoral staff and bits of the curriculum will be less successful than approaches that encompass all interactions across the community, staff to students, staff to each other, staff to parents. All staff have a responsibility to promote resilience and mental health. It does not just mean learning about it in individual lessons, but how a school as a whole functions. It's not just individual skills. The whole school approach means it's everybody's business, involving people, processes, systems, and behaviours. It's not just a set of deliverable resources isolated to one part of a student's day. And we also need to remember that returning to school after lockdown may give some pupils a chance to reinvent themselves. They may have been having difficulties before and they may be able to change themselves. Young Minds use the resilience framework co-produced from a literature review of everything that's been written about resilience by Professor Angie Hart and her colleagues at Boing. It can be found on our website at Young Minds and also on boingboing.org website. They have lots of resources and information, and Young Minds referencing it in most of their training and work with schools on the academic resilience approach. I think the whole thing about resilience is really to remember that small, ordinary actions can make a huge difference to pupil resilience and subsequent mental well-being. Resilience isn't about doing lots and lots of things, it's about small, little things that make a big difference. So this has just been a short presentation today. There are many more strategies that can be employed, but it's really important to remember also that what works in one setting will not necessarily work in another. You have to work out what works for your setting. Every school and college is different, and you need to work out what is for your setting. If you're interested, there's a lot more information and help on our website, youngminds.org.uk. Young Minds also have a parents helpline that will support parents if they've got young people that they're worried about their children, and we also do lots more training. You can also join our 360-degree school community. Again, the details are on our website, where you would receive e-newsletters packed with free tips, videos, teaching resources and things, lots and lots of case studies, lots of information again on our website, youngminds.org.uk. Thank you for listening today, and I hope that was useful.
Hi Helen, are you okay?
Hi.
Thank you for that. You're okay. That was really insightful. Thank you. I have got a few questions, if that's okay. It might be, even if it's sort of like we're directing people. First of all, you know, you referenced a resource, Building Resilience. Is there any chance that some of you can direct us to that, and then we can let our listeners know what that is, and I'd be interested to read it myself as well. Okay, so,
you mean the resilience framework?
Yes, and I think there was an unusual title that you said. Was it Boo Boo or I don't know, Bobo?
Oh, yeah. Boingboing.org.
All right then, boingboing.org. Okay, we'll get that down from you, and then we'll send that out.
Boing as in BOING.org.
Yeah.
They've got a resilience framework. They've got lots of information, and they've also got a supplement for COVID as well. You can also find the resilience framework on the Young Minds website as well, and also there's a set of resources on the Young Minds website with lots and lots and lots of classroom activities as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Little 20-minute classroom activities that you could use in tutor and PSHE lessons as well. They are mainly for primary school, but I have used them in secondary school, and they're easy to adapt to secondary school. And they will be found on the youngminds.org.uk website under the schools community. But also, if you sign up for the 360-degree school community, you get sent lots of information and lots of activities and teaching resources regularly during the year.
Yeah, I know the website is full of resources. I've not obviously been able to sign up for this, but yeah, we'll put that on in an email and send that out. A couple of questions, if that's okay there. Obviously, everybody's journey through this has been very individual, and people, like you rightly said, it's different anxieties from different people. We've had a question about those that are shielding, not only the children, but also staff. I think you did cover it, but is there anywhere or anything else you can say that, how do staff in school reassure those that are extremely vulnerable a bit more? And I know it's that building up, but is there anything else, or we can send people to have a look for, because their journeys are going to be particularly difficult, aren't they, over the last 6 months?
I'm really sorry you broke up during that.
Oh,
I couldn't hear what you said.
So it is those ones that, no, it's those people that have been on lockdown, and those staff and the pupils, and obviously now they're going to come out and either work or study. Is there any other useful tips that you can give, or resources to encourage those or to support those people?
I think it's really important to give people safe spaces. I think it's really important to make sure that that everybody knows the rules, everyone has safe spaces, that there's a lot of reassurance, and people are able to talk about their fears. I think that's probably the most important thing, is giving people space to talk and listen.
I think you said before, safe space, and the big one that's always been for me throughout pastoral care is non-judgmental is so key, because you own those feelings, and you can't, don't you? And that's the thing. So that would be for me. And
I think that non-judgmental is really, really important, because everyone deals with things like this in a very, very, very different way. And there might be judgments from different staff going, oh, they're shielding, they're not doing the same work as I'm doing. And actually, it's just managing it. Everyone has to manage it in their own way. And I think as well, in terms of the shielding, there's going to be some parents that have to shield, and they're absolutely petrified about their young people going back to school, and then after they've been shielding for so long. And it's reassurance in the parents. I think it's that continual short communication to parents that let them know what's going on. And the last thing parents would need to know is to read that there's been some cases in the school in the newspaper, rather than them being told first, because I think that is that communication and that trust. And I think trust is really important as well.
Just building that, and that's one of the questions we've just had, is about parental anxiety and the impact that's going to have, because obviously they're going to be really concerned at home, and they're being told that they've got to send their child out. So you've answered that, and I think it's that checking in and reassurance all the time, isn't it, about that?
Yeah, and how you do that with parents is going to be very different depending on every single setting, because obviously a small primary school might be able to do something very, very different to a very large comprehensive school, because they've got very many more parents. And I think what is important is you've got to read all the advice and work out what works for your setting, and not look at the school down the road, because the school down the road might be doing something different, but that works for them. It's got to be for what works for your setting. But really connecting with the parents is going to be so important. giving parents an opportunity to ask questions, to say their fears. I think if people feel listened to, it just really helps their reassurance, and without having judgments made on them.
No, totally agree. We've had another question about recommendations on how to use the governors in the school, and I don't know if you've got any comments about that. I know they can be such a support. So have you got anything that you could say about the governors, how they can actually help at all at the school? Because they're there as volunteers, so they could be.
Yeah, well, some of the governors will be parents, won't they? So there'll be parent governors, and they could be used as a voice, and that would be a really important voice. I know my husband was a parent governor for many years on both our children's primary school and then secondary school, and you can go as a voice as a parent, and that's really important. They also, some governors are working in business, and they may have experiences of people going back to work in their businesses and how they're dealing with it, and they may be able to share. Just because it's a business and a school, there may be some crossovers. They may be able to share some experience and some expertise. And also, it could be that the governors could be used as a voice for staff to go to, because they may not want to go to the head teacher to talk about some of their fears. Maybe they could go to the governors and talk about them, and they could be used that way as well.
I mean, that's the whole idea with governors. It's such a diverse group that have different skills that could be sort of brought in. So again, it's making sure that schools do communicate with the governors, and so they might have experienced different things. Okay. And
I think they could. Oh, sorry.
No, carry on.
All I was going to say is make sure schools do listen to the governors, because they've got a different experience as well, and everybody's experience is really important to gather together and sort of put in a melting pot and then work out how to work forward, I think.
And we've just had a comment from somebody, which is very, very true, because you said about having a whole school approach, and the governors could be key to this as well. They can bring it all in together and be one of those. So thank you, and thank you for that comment as well there. I know in your talk you said about different exercises and techniques, and I think this is something we can direct people to, about breathing exercises, and we touched on this on one of our other webinars. Have you got resources on YoungMinds for that? Different calming techniques, things, or not, do you know?
Yeah, there will be resources on the website about that. But it's just, again, it's just very simple exercises. It's things like just breathing, distraction, any kind of distraction. If a young person's getting distressed, I mean, one of the problems might be, especially around all the washing the hands and the sanitizing, if a young person has got any kind of OCD difficulties and are worried about washing and germs and things, that could exacerbate it. So it's using distraction techniques and breathing exercises and physical activities and getting children out walking and in the playground and in the fresh air if needed to be. But yeah, there will be some resources on YoungMinds website.
We had a question as well about, obviously, the young people that left at the end of March into lockdown. Their situation may have changed considerably, and like we said, some have actually managed to reconnect, but some will have gone into experienced very difficult financial difficulties, and they're coming back. So the young person that left in March, end of March, may not be as you remember them when you come in. So it's giving them the confidence as well, isn't it? And also the parents the confidence to come up and say, actually, things are very difficult there. And is this using the pastoral staff as well?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's using a route that everyone can have a voice through is really important. It's really important to gather that information. Those vulnerable children who might have identified as being vulnerable in March, as you're saying, they may be very different. Some have had positive experiences and some and others negative experiences. So it's really important to revisit how you identify your vulnerable children and identify every single young person in your school and look at their vulnerability factors again and just check which ones are more vulnerable, and also gather information from parents. That's really important. And I think I just remember the first day, just giving young people and children chance to talk is really important. They'll all want to talk about it, and I think it's really important to give them that space to talk and to share some of their experiences without, it's really, I think that's a really, really important thing to do. My husband has a team of workers, and when they've been having their meetings on Zoom, because none of them have seen each other, the first half an hour, all they want to do is talk. Yeah. And then before you start doing the meeting, and he sort of used to say, well, I've got to let them talk, because they needed to talk. Because as you say, some young people might not have seen their friends, they haven't seen, so they haven't been able to socialize and connect. And I do think it's just so important in that first day to let them talk and not expect them to suddenly do a test or to be launched into silence learning something that first day. It's a very human response. And some of them are going to be very excited. And I think don't down that excitement. Let them have a little bit of creativity and talk and time. And I think that's really important.
Well,
parents will want to talk too.
Yeah, I'm in Leicestershire, and I've seen a lot of smiley children of different ages walking by my window today in full school uniform. So that's made me smile, actually. I'm not saying that's for all, and I'm not saying there's not anxieties, but actually there was a lot of skipping going up this road, which was a delight. Now, I've got a question from a trainee teacher, and what a year to be going into your first year.
Oh, so my word, yeah.
What advice would you give to new trainee or student teachers entering the secondary school teaching profession, or any, I suppose, profession? I'm a new student teacher about to start in chemistry in London. So is there any advice at all?
Oh my word, that's really hard. Take advice from other staff. That's a really important thing to do. The advice you always got as a trainee teacher was go in hard at the beginning. That was what we always used to get told. Go in hard and, assert your authority and make sure that the young people know exactly who's in charge of the lesson. I remember that was always my advice. But I don't think that's the right advice necessarily for this new term. I mean, that's important, but I think it's what I said before. You've got to be firm, have boundaries at this point, but be really flexible with those boundaries and be prepared to change. So be firm in terms of some ways, because you do need to, the children need boundaries. Some of them won't have had any boundaries, and that's the other problem, is some of the boundaries have been so blurred and won't have had boundaries and haven't been told to go to bed or get up, and parents have been busy working and their boundaries and stuff. So that is going to be a really, really difficult situation. So the routine and the boundaries are really important, but try and be flexible, be prepared to change, go with the flow a little bit, make sure you see what's going on your classroom, and also take advice if don't be worried to take advice, because everybody's going to be struggling a little bit in this time.
I think that's it, isn't it? Don't be scared. Don't be scared to ask a question to your mentor who's looking after you in school, or any of the teachers around you, because it's a whole new journey for everybody.
Yeah. So. Can I just add something as well? It's something I did say in my presentation, but it's really hard for trainee teachers and new teachers. Don't put your anxiety. Don't let the young people see your anxiety. Use your staff sessions and your mentors and your head of year or whatever to get your anxieties out and talk to them, but really be careful not to put your anxieties and show your anxieties in the classroom, because for those young people who are anxious, having an adult who's anxious as well just compounds the situation, and that's easier said than done, but it's a really important technique. A lot of the work that I did when I was in the psychiatric unit, we were dealing with lots and lots of young people with really severe mental health difficulties. And sometimes you were very anxious about them and really, really worried about them. But you had to be calm, and I had to be firm, and I had to keep the boundaries, and then when you've dealt with them, then go and talk to somebody and blurt it all out, but keep your anxieties when you're dealing with young people. And I think that's really hard for a trainee teacher, because they're going to be anxious about their first year anyway. But yeah, that's a really important point.
I worked in secondary, and it was very evident sometimes that the young people would test the waters as well. You know, they would see how far they could push certain things. So yeah, so it's not being scared to ask, isn't it? And so you are feeling part of the school community too. I've got a question. Sorry, yeah.
No, what I was going to say, in these times as well, because there's so many new rules, pupils will try and push the rules. Some of them, because that's what they do. That's what teenagers do, is they push boundaries. They as I say, they're risk aversive. They go with risk and stuff. So they will probably, some will be trying to push the boundaries even more. And it's just keeping that firm but flexible approach.
We have a question about early years, and if you've got any advice at all about early years settings with term time children coming back into nursery next week. So is it the same sort of models that we've discussed?
Yeah, I mean, obviously my experience is more with 11 to 18-year-olds, so early years is not my I don't have a lot of experience with early years. And I imagine it's a very different situation, because how do you get early years children to follow the rules? I think that they're out because a lot of early years settings did start back in June. There must be case studies and other people to talk to that have already been through this, and play groups and stuff started in back in June. So I think it'd be looking at other settings and seeing what other people did and how it worked then. But I'm going to be really honest that early years isn't my say. I'm a secondary school more.
So Helen, that's all the questions I have, but I've got 2 comments, okay, there, which are very useful. So schools may have to be in a position to be able to signpost families to a range of support services to help them through a variety of issues and crises they may be dealing with. An identified area on their website would be useful for the community and relieve the pressure from school staff, which is something that we've been working on, but that's absolutely true, because then if you can have those conversations and then direct people to the resources without searching, that's really good. And the other, sorry.
Oh, and what I was going to say is I've just put my slide back one. Our parents helpline, that's what they do as well. So if they want to, you can give the number to the parents helpline to your parents, and they will signpost as well to lots of different resources and help out there.
So the last one is right. The last one is a very positive comment, and then I'm going to pass over to Joe. And it said, "This is not a question, just a massive thank you to say this webinar has been fantastic, and I'll be taking lots into our school starting next week. Thank you." And we've got a number of those coming through. Really appreciate you shared your practice and experience. And that's me done, and I'm going to pass over to Joe. So Joe, are you there, please?
I am. Hi.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Helen, and thank you everyone for fielding. Oh gosh, we had so many questions. So thanks everybody. What we'll try to do is a video will now be sent automatically so everyone can watch this back. If we've had a lot of questions, Dawn might go through them and see if we can prepare some answers, and we'll send those along with Helen's slides separately. They'll come straight from Educare. So yeah, brilliant. It was a really good session. I was writing lots of notes because I'm a parent of an anxious secondary school. My daughter is going into year 8. So yeah, really brilliant. Thank you very much, Helen. Helen, if you wouldn't mind just going on to our final slide. It's just got details of all the other webinars that we've run. Thank you. So the URL that you can go to is educare/ask the experts, and you can ask for recordings. I think, Dawn, have we done six of these webinars now? And they've just been brilliant. And we've got recordings of them or the presentation slides. So I would encourage you to go and have a look. We're doing another session at the end of September with Safna, really looking at your sort of new mental health obligations. School nurses are recommended as a route to sort of help you sort of assess and refer. So Sharon is from Safna, the School Nurses Association, so she's going to be talking to you about that at the end of September. And then we are planning something, I think it's with the Children's Society in the end of September, on young carers. And we know particularly young carers have been really affected by lockdown. So watch out, they will all be posted on that. And we'll probably send emails for everyone who's attended, so there's more webinars to sign up to. So yeah, they've been brilliant. And Helen, thank you again. And I'm sorry that we had problems with your webcam, but yeah, thank you very much. And I'll end the session now. Okay, thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.